What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikiPikaPapa, and unless you've been like off planet or sleeping under a rock, you are well aware of the fact that the Pokemon Company International has come out and said, listen, we dropped the ball with prismatic evolutions. There are far more people who want this product than product we've produced, so we're gonna make it right, we're gonna double back, we're gonna reprint this set, and they also said in that we're also going to reprint other affected products as well, which is a very vague term, but I think that's very important. And now, listen, I feel very fortunate that I live in a bunch of different Pokemon collecting and investing worlds, right? I have my 5-year-old and my 9-year-old where we rip Pokemon products. We have a ton of fun as a family. We send cards off to PSA that are valuable, and we send cards off to PSA that aren't worth anything, but we just do it to encapsulate a memory, right? I also am a big collector. I have cards behind me that it doesn't matter their worth. They're just very special to me. They're cards I love. I love their artwork. They remind me of moments, so I'm very much a collector. But then I'm also very much an investor. That's another side of what I do. Like, I keep some of these products sealed and I have them in a Poke Closet, which is ever growing and ever expanding, because I do think 10, 15, 20 years down the road, I don't know what I'll do with them, but I do think they're going to be worth more money than they are today. So with all of that being said, and with these really popular sets like Prismatic Evolutions being reprinted, a lot of us got to be thinking like, hey, what is that going to mean for the long-term value of these sets and these cards and all of that? And now listen, I will say this, I think the most beautiful thing about the Pokemon hobby is that no matter what gets you excited, there's so many different ways to find joy in this. So I'm very happy that a lot of people are going to find their way into Prismatic Evolutions. But what's going on right now isn't new. Like, this has happened before. It's actually happened multiple times in the Pokemon collecting space. So I thought that is something that we're going to talk about today. We're going to do a real, I don't know, kind of like a high level overview of what's happened in the past. We're going to look at real numbers directly from the Pokemon Company International. Like, there's no interpretation of it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, these are black and white numbers coming from them. We're going to look at print trends over time. Like, we're just going to do a really deep dive. And I think it's going to be a ton of fun. Hopefully it's super enlightening. And at the end of the day, all I want is for everybody, whether you're a game player, a collector, an investor, whether you do it with your kids, whether you have no idea what you're doing and you're brand new to the hobby, I just want you to be able to find joy in it, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We want the hobby to continue to grow. We want the hobby to be healthy. We need new collectors. We need seasoned collectors to still find joy in it. Like, we just need everybody to be happy. So that's what I'm hoping for. Now, the article that I clipped down here, again, right, this reads exactly as what we just got from the Pokemon Company International. It says Pokemon TCG cards are being reprinted to combat scalpers. The Pokemon Company will be reprinting high-demand card sets and maximizing production of future expansions to battle availability issues, right? Like, we all just heard this, but guess what? This isn't the most recent press release. This is actually from February of 2021, and I included a Forbes article on the exact same thing up there. The Pokemon Company steps up trading card production amid surging demand. Now, if you all remember, that was when, the global pandemic happened. People were shut in their house. Like, so what did they do? Everybody went back to their nostalgic things. They went back to their childhood. Everybody was playing Pokemon. There were lines at Targets and Walmarts and you name it. It was an absolute frenzy. So the Pokemon Company did then exactly what they're doing now. And if you can get your hands on the press release from 2021, it reads almost identically to what we just recently got from them. So to me, I start thinking, well, they're probably going to do a very similar approach. So it's important for us to understand what happened back then. Doesn't mean that it's going to mirror it now, but I always say if we can take lessons from the past and apply them to the present, it might give us some idea of what could happen in the future. And that is what this channel is all about, and that is why I love doing videos like this. So, getting back to that, here's the other thing that I wanted to call out. The statement goes on to note that the company is also maximizing production for upcoming Pokemon TCG expansions to increase product availability upon release. And the next set that was being released was Shining Fates. And that's important because if you read the most recent statement that came out from Pokemon Company about the Prismatic Evolutions reprints, it also says other affected products as well. So it is, the reprints are not just, isolated to Prismatic Evolutions. Obviously, I did a video the other day. We talked about Journey Together. Every single Journey Together product is sold out. So you got to know that the Pokemon Company International is not only looking at Prismatic Evolutions, they're probably looking at the next set, Journey Together, and saying, holy crud, everything is sold out. So we've got to ramp up production of Prismatic Evolutions, but we also have to make sure that we have product ready for Journey Together. That way we don't go through this again, right? If there's a problem, they want to fix it. And also, I say this all the time, you got to remember this, like the Pokemon Company is a for-profit company. They want to sell as much of the product as they possibly can. If scalpers are out there making money, the Pokemon Company is looking in the mirror and going, holy crud, guys, we failed. We missed our forecasting. Like, we should be the ones who are selling the product, not selling it to a scalper who's then selling it to somebody we could have sold it to for twice MSRP. You've got to think about that. Like, there's no diabolical plan at the Pokemon Company. They just misforecasted on demand. Demand's through the roof, so now they're trying to double back and make sure that they get the sale and the scalpers doesn't, which is just business 101, right? So I thought that was a really important takeaway, that Shining Fates was the set that was coming out after Pokemon did this announcement back in 2021. So the other thing I thought was really cool to talk about is this graph right here. So the Pokemon Company International, they don't announce officially the number of cards that they print every single year, but every year they announce how many total cards have been printed all time. So you will see the quote up there. This is straight from PokeBeach, where it's an awesome source for Pokemon information. You will see it says Pokemon TCG printed record 11.9 billion cards in 2023, the biggest year ever. This came out in May of 2024, right? So my guess is around May of 2025, in a couple months, we'll get another announcement that will tell us how many cards they printed over the last year. So really interesting stuff here. Now, when you look at this right here, we have the total number of cards that have been printed, and then you can get year over year, and you can get the percentage of growth from that as well. So if you look at this example right here in 2021, the year where they made this announcement, there were 34.1 billion, with a B, billion cards that Pokemon Company had total produced over time. And then in 2022, they announced that there had been 43.2 billion cards produced. So you can see that from 34.1 to 43.2 billion, there was 9.1 billion cards produced over that time frame, for a growth of 27%. Now, why do I have that 27% highlighted, right? Especially when they did the announcement in 2021, and I have that circled for 2022. Well, the reason I have that is because I think this is interesting. Look at these previous years and then the year after 2022, okay? So the growth rate was really consistent. I mean, between 2017 and 2018, the number of cards they printed increased by 6%. From 2018 to 2019, it increased by 6%. From 2019 to 2020, it increased by 6%. I mean, that number is too consistent for it to be an accident. My thought is that every year, Pokemon Company International, they sit down, they put together a forecast for the year, and they say, okay, we want to grow the brand by 10%. Okay, and X percent is going to come from the card game, X percent is going to come, from video games, X percent is going to come from our TV series, and they build out a plan for if they want the company to grow by X percent. So they were increasing the number of cards that they would produce by a steady percent in order to meet those company goals. Well, you can see that during the pandemic and for the year after, they ramped up production, and they ramped it up hard. But then look what happened after that. For 2023 and 2024, they again got to a very consistent number of 22%. Now, again, it's not 3 years in a row, it's only 2 years in a row, but one would guess that unless something crazy happened, like's going on right now, they would have maintained that constant 22%, just like in 2018, 19, 20, when they maintained that constant 6%. So if the trend was to hold, when we get the numbers in, I don't know, May of this year or whenever we get them, if it was a 22% growth rate year over year, there would be a total of 79 billion Pokemon cards that had been produced, for a year over year growth of 14.2 billion. Now, the other thing that I want to call out that's really interesting is if you look at the far right column, that shows you the number of languages on the left of the hash and the number of areas that those cards are distributed in on the right. So you will see that the number of languages has increased over the time, and the number of areas that they distribute the cards has increased over time. So these aren't just the same cards being produced more and more. Pokemon is ever expanding. One of the reasons I'm so bullish on it is because it's such a global company. So you can see that it's been growing steadily, so which is a very, very good thing. We want that to happen. So interesting takeaway on the overall number of cards that have been produced. And if you've never seen this, again, this is straight from PokeBeach. This comes directly from Pokemon Company International. This isn't some numbers that are made up. Like, these are actual numbers from the Pokemon Company International, which is really interesting. But then I thought, okay, so we know all of this. Let's start taking a look at what happened afterwards. Okay, so here's another article. in June of 2021, remember, the first thing was announced in February, right? So you got February, March, April, May, June. We're talking a mere 4 months later, this article comes out and it says, is the Pokemon TCG scalping crisis truly finished? Very interesting title. Then it goes on below to say this, the Pokemon company is following through on its promise to print Shining Fates and Battle Style products. Remember, Shining Fate was the next set that was going to come out after the big scalping craze, right? So Shining Fates and Battle Styles were printed into oblivion, and when something is printed into oblivion, you can't scalp them because it's readily available at MSRP. So what that does is it pushes the scalpers out. What it doesn't push out is people like me, people who are in this for the long term. I am a long-term collector and investor, so I don't particularly care if a set that I really believe in stays at MSRP or barely above MSRP for a period of 2 to 3 years because my time horizon is so much longer. So the intent of all of this isn't to push out long-term collectors or long-term investors. The intent of this is to push people out who are trying to make a quick buck immediately, which I could not possibly applaud them more for. However, what's interesting to take note is these 2 sets that they mentioned. Remember, this is from 2021. Let's see what's happened to those 2 sets that they mentioned. First and foremost, Battle Styles booster boxes are still available here in the Pokemon Center US for MSRP, okay? So, I mean, can you even imagine how many of those they produce? Now, I'm still a big believer in Battle Styles, and the reason I am right now at this point is because I do think, you know, with Sword and Shield being so far in the rearview mirror, I do think Battle Styles booster boxes are going to sell out relatively soon. And look what happened to Shining Fates. Again, Shining Fates came out in February of 2021. Okay, so this is almost 3 years old. And look, up until about 4 or 5 months ago, Shining Fates ETBs were still at MSRP. They were still available on the Pokemon Center here in the US. Up until they finally sold out on the Pokemon Center, now they've gone up 51% over the last couple months. So the value in these is when they sell out on the Pokemon Center, right? So, you know, I'm not saying that Prismatic Evolutions is going to do what Shining Fates did. Like, I think Prismatic Evolutions, the card list is just so dominant. I think the Sunbreon at the very top, all the evolutions, like, I think it's going to be fine. But I do think that it's going to help reduce the price, at least in the short term for us. And then when I look at Battle Styles, you know, Battle Styles, are they going to print Journey Together the same way they printed Battle Styles? Again, when you look at the card lineup of Battle Styles, I think it is far superior to the card lineup of, when you look at Journey Together, the card lineup is far superior to the card lineup of Battle Styles, although I do love that Sleepy T-Tar at the very top. So that's going to help drive collection. That's going to help drive excitement. But then I also want you to take a moment and think about what happened right after Battle Styles. What was the set after Battle Styles? Chilling Reign, right? So you got Chilling Reign, which is a $300, almost $400 booster box right now. And then what was after Chilling Reign? Evolving Skies. Evolving Skies is the most expensive booster box from the Sword and Shield era. Like, it is absolutely killing the game. $1,300, $1,400 a booster box right now. And again, remember, the time frame of all of this was from February to June of 2021, 4 short months. So I don't know how long they're going to, you know, put the production in overdrive. I don't know how it's going to affect future sets, but I did think this was a fantastic view and a great way to kind of ground us in what happened the last time the Pokemon Company International addressed an issue like this and what the results were. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but I do believe in taking lessons from the past, applying them to the present to give us some idea of what might happen in the future. I hope this was enlightening. I hope you found this really valuable, and I hope it makes you feel a little bit better about the future state of Pokemon collecting and investing as a whole. I hope you had a ton of fun. I can't thank you enough for watching. Have an epic one. I'll talk to you soon, everybody. See you. Bye.